At the dawn of winter, I set out to California in my 1948 schoolie in what was supposed to be a 2-week trip, which turned into 3 months of an absolute nightmare. All right, so I think I'm just about at my breaking point. So I've been stuck in Texas now for 4 weeks officially as of today after my bus broke down. Christmas Day is coming in on a close. I spent the holiday out here in this parking lot while I wait for some parts to ship out. And I've had nothing to eat all day, so I think I'm gonna get myself some Chinese food. So a lot of things happened, which led me to where you see me now. And if you didn't watch my last video where I explained that all, let me sum it up for you real quick. So I bought a bus from 1948 to live and travel in full time. And that is when everything started to go wrong. My air hose sprung a leak, I was losing coolant, I had to replace my radiator, and then a bearing exploded, which destroyed my engine fan, broke a coolant pipe, and wrecked my brand new radiator. So I was stuck. I really couldn't do much but just wait for my parts, so I killed my time watching YouTube since there really wasn't much else to do around town. This was some of the best Chinese food I've ever had in my life. It was a little place called Asian Kitchen. After I finished that, I ran to the store to grab some beer and called it a night. The guys came out to replace my fan pretty early in the morning and actually woke me up, so I didn't really have time to film anything. Plus, I just feel kind of weird recording people doing their jobs. I don't know if that's just me. But by the time they were done and gone, I ended up with a little bit more than what I asked for. Okay, so I got the fan replaced on the back of the engine. Some guys came out, replaced that for me. All is well on that end. But, however, there was a little bit of a curveball thrown at me. After they installed it, they wanted me to, turn the engine over just to make sure everything was tight, nothing rattling around, anything like that. I go to start the engine, there's absolutely no power at all. I check the voltage and it doesn't even register that there's batteries there at all. I know I have a parasitic draw somewhere in the electrical system and I forgot to unplug my batteries when I parked here. So that completely drained them like down to zero, beyond repair. So I tried to explain to them that I wanted to go to O'Reilly's and get some new batteries. But there's a bit of a language barrier. They didn't know any English at all, and I haven't taken Spanish since high school. So, I did my best to explain I was gonna go get new batteries at O'Reilly's. Then they started unhooking my batteries. I'm gonna save you this 3-minute yap session and sum it up for you real quick. So not only did they go out and buy new batteries, they decided to buy the most expensive batteries they had available at the store. About twice as much as what I was originally gonna pay for. And now I had additional labor. So I ended up with a bill of just over $1,000 for what was supposed to be a little over $300. But at the end of the day, I got new batteries, a new fan. So we're set on that front. It just cost me like $400 more than what I wanted to pay. So I'm gonna solder the radiator, or at least try to. It seems like a pretty easy thing to do. And the only thing I have to do after that is take care of that coolant pipe. The chunk of metal that blew off just completely pinched the pipe shut. So I'm just gonna chop off both ends of that. I'm gonna bring it into a auto shop, or not an auto shop, a parts store, and try to get a coolant hose that'll fit over that so I can just bridge the gap. Yeah, then at that point I should finally be able to hit the road, hopefully. I mean, the way this trip has been going, I just know something else is gonna go wrong. It's just a matter of time. I guess this is home for the time being. This trip has just been something new every day. It's like 10 a.m. now. Let's not waste any more time. Let's just get this work done. So I cut the pipe, and unfortunately I'm gonna have to redo all of this later because I didn't leave enough room for the clamp to get a good grip on the pipe, which just made it leak like crazy. But that is a future me problem. All right, mission success. We got everything we needed. I did have to make a second stop at O'Reilly's. I had to walk a little bit down the road because AutoZone did not have the flux that I needed, unfortunately. O'Reilly's did have it though, so that's cool. They only had the liquid though. I was hoping they had the flux paste because I think that would be a lot easier to work with than the liquid, but gotta work with what you got, I guess. But yeah, let's start at square one. Let's get that coolant hose on and we'll go from there, I guess. Okay, so a little bit of a setback. This stuff that I got at AutoZone, apparently not what we want. I didn't read the fine print on here that says not recommended for plumbing. And looking further into it, I guess that acid flux core is really bad for copper and brass. According to the internet, it will corrode the metal, and that's obviously not what we want. So fortunately, there is one store in town that does sell what we need. They got it at Tractor Supply Co., supposedly, but the unfortunate part about that is they are an hour away walking distance, and obviously we can't take the bus because the radiator's fried. So, you know, that's our only option. So without anything else we can do, I'm just gonna get that coolant hose on and start walking. So yeah, you can probably see better now. There really wasn't much for the hose to get clamped onto at the bend in the pipe. And if you've got a good eye, you can probably already see another problem that I'm gonna have to face in the future. But if you can't spot that now, you'll just have to wait and find out what that is. After I got that hose on, I started my hour-long walk to Tractor Supply Co. This was actually the second time I made this walk. The first time was because I needed a magnet because I was originally gonna try to patch the radiator with JB Weld. Finally got what I needed right as the sun's going down. And I was gonna use the magnet to kind of pull the JB Weld through the radiator to get a better seal. Turned out the magnet was online only, so it was just a complete waste of time. By the time I made it back, the sun was already down, so I couldn't really do any more work that day. All right, so I just got back to the bus. It's late, obviously. I've been sitting here for a couple minutes. It is insanely windy right now. My bus is getting tossed around like mad, and I kept hearing this banging going on in the back of my bus. It turns out the solar panel was just lifting up in the wind, like completely off its mount. I climbed up there and looked, and I'm missing 2 bolts. I don't know how, I don't know when, but we're missing 2 bolts. So that's another thing we got to deal with tomorrow, as well as the radiator, because I mean, obviously I'm not going to be working on that tonight, unfortunately. I mean, the wind is so bad. The wind is so bad right now. I literally had to zip tie this shut because when I got in here, that vent was just completely fully open. So as if I didn't have enough on my hands already, now I've got to crawl up on the roof and get the solar panel secured.
All right, it's morning. If you can't tell, it's really cold. It's about 34 degrees. Got a lot of work to do today. Got to do the radiator. Got to get some nuts and bolts for the solar panels. And one more thing I forgot to mention in the last bit was I want to redo the patch that I did for the discharge hose on the air compressor because the patch that I did is not working out too well. And after that, we should be ready to hit the road. But honestly, I don't know if I want to drive today just because it's really cold today. And I really don't like to drive in cold weather just because, you know, I have no heater in here and there's a bunch of holes in the floor that blow up against my feet. It's just a miserable experience. I think I'm just gonna wait till tomorrow because tomorrow's supposed to get up into the 50s, and for me that's like perfect driving weather because I can have all the windows closed and it doesn't get too hot, it's not too cold, it's just perfect. Right now I'm gonna get some breakfast. I think I'm just gonna go out and buy something because I really don't feel like making anything right now. Yeah, and then we'll get some work done.
Luckily I had plenty of options for food where I was parked at. So I went to the BK Lounge for breakfast, watched some YouTube videos while I mentally prepared myself for what was supposed to be another walk across town. But I actually lucked out and didn't have to make that walk. All right, so good news. I didn't have to go to the hardware store. I just went right down to the AutoZone to get the coolant hose, and I saw these bad boys there. I didn't think they would have a huge range of nuts and bolts there because, you know, it's auto stuff, but yeah, I think this will be perfect for the solar panels. So yeah, let's get this on there and then we'll go from there. So this is yet another fix that I ended up having to do again later. This is a really old air compressor, so it's not like I can just order a hose off Napa and call it a day. I had to use what I had on hand to stop the leak as best as I could. So it looks like we got that knocked out. We got the coolant pipe for the air compressor, that's knocked out as well. Next on the list, we're gonna climb up on the roof and get those solar panels bolted down. All right, never mind. We're not doing that right now because these two nuts and bolts don't really go together. So we got to go back to the store, get another pair of nuts and bolts, and then we can start on the solar panels. So once I actually got the right bolts, I started on the panels. And let me tell you, it's hard to explain the level of frustration I was experiencing with this one bolt in the back. Once I turn the camera around, you'll see just how tight of a space I was squeezing myself into. It was like one of those extreme caving videos where I could barely get my chest in deep enough to reach my arm out. And I could only get one arm through the squeeze at a time, and I had to figure out how to get this nut onto the bolt, which could freely spin on its own, by the way. Finally, I got the bolt on, but this was just the beginning. I still had to tighten it, which would prove to be a totally different kind of challenge. What I ended up doing was putting one wrench on the bolt up top so that when it spun, the wrench would press up against the inside of the solar panel to stop it from turning. And I had to use this other wrench to try and tighten the nut, which was just insanely tedious. Once I got that done, I went around to double check all the other bolts to make sure they were all tight. This one in the back corner was fun to work on. I had to stand on the very edge of the box in the back of my bus and hook my leg around the ladder while leaning over the ledge and bending my whole body around the corner of the bus. And after doing one last check on all the bolts, I saw something tucked away under the panels. It turned out that I had a pair of pliers sitting up there ever since I installed the panels. So thank goodness those didn't fall off when I was driving. I got the solar panels secured, made sure to put some thread lock on the bolts so they don't come loose again from the vibration. I did also circle around and make sure to check all the other bolts, and they're all good. I don't think they'll pose an issue in the future, but unfortunately I did kind of dilly-dally a lot today. You can see it's already dark out, so I'm not going to be able to do any radiator work today. And in all honesty, I think I'm just going to call around tomorrow and see if someone's willing to work on it, because, you know, I'm just tired of sitting around. In 3 days, it'll be 5 weeks since I've been here, and it's all because of that radiator too. Whenever they installed the new radiator, it was pushing up against the bearing on the wheel tensioner, caused it to vibrate. It exploded and caused all this collateral damage. But I mean, that's the way she goes, you know? So anyways, that's all I got for now. I'm gonna get some dinner, watch some TV, relax for the night, try to go to bed early so I can call around early in the morning tomorrow. Hopefully, if all goes well, I can get that radiator patched up and get on the road same day, but we'll see. But unfortunately, it would not be that easy for me. All right, so I've hit another pretty major roadblock. I called everywhere in town. No one wants to work on the radiator. A few of them gave me recommendations for places, but they're all way out of town. The nearest one is gonna be 100 miles away, and obviously I can't drive that far. So yeah, that leaves me to do it myself, I guess. But the problem with that is I don't have a drain pan to hold all the coolant. So I called every parts store in town and no one has a drain pan that can hold that much volume. So I don't know what to do right now. I'm kind of stumped. I honestly think my best option is to just try and drive, see how far I can get until the engine gets warm, pull over, throw in more coolant, let it cool down, and repeat that process. It sounds insane, but really at this point it kind of seems like my only option, because I can't work on it here. No one else here wants to work on it, and the only radiator place is in the complete opposite direction from where I'm going. So yeah, I might just drive around town for a bit and see if the air pressure will hold up and see how the coolant levels are holding up. So I got everything ready to get the bus moving for the first time since I landed here in Pecos. It doesn't sound happy, but it's going. I don't think we're gonna see any issues with the heat just from staying here idle. So I'm gonna try to drive around town for a little bit and see how the temp's doing then. All right, so very bad news. Got a few problems. First, the patch that I did for the coolant pipe that goes towards the air compressor, that's leaking like crazy in two different spots actually. The first spot is where I patched it. That's my bad. I think I cut it a little bit too short and I wasn't really able to get a tight grip on the hose clamp, so that's my bad. But I didn't even realize it was leaking from another spot on an older part of the hose. So I'm just gonna have to get a longer piece of coolant hose and that should solve the problem. So I'm not too worried about that. But what I'm really worried about is the shroud for the engine fan has come off its mounting points and is rubbing right up against the belt for the air compressor, and it was shaking like crazy. It looked like it was about to blow up at any point. So I had to run and stop the engine real quick. That's why I didn't get any of it on video. I didn't want to have the engine running for a second longer. Not sure how I'm gonna fix that. Yeah, at least the hose will be easy to deal with, and I'll have to figure out where to go from there. You can see it better at this angle just how badly damaged that old section of tubing was. I don't know why I didn't replace the whole thing just to begin with, but here we are. All right, mission success. We got another segment of tube, and I went on a little bit of a side quest to get some kombucha. So I got the longer segment of tube and bridged the gap. And now is your second chance to see if you notice anything wrong with what you see here in this frame, because this is right when I noticed the problem. All right, so I think I'm just about at my breaking point. So I showed you the issue I had with the fan shroud rubbing up against the belt, but when I was out there, I noticed that the fan was facing in the wrong direction. So it's blowing air towards the engine when it should be blowing away from the engine since it's rear mounted. I looked everywhere online. I can't find a single fan that matches the bolt patterns that pushes in the right direction. So I'm like pretty much out of options at this point. Like I genuinely don't know what to do. I think my best bet is to just get rid of the fan and get rid of the shroud and just mount an electric fan and hope that that's enough. I mean, what else do I do? Like I genuinely just can't do this anymore. It's just too much. I've already been here for almost 5 weeks now. I need to get on the road. I've got to at least try to make it to a major city where there's going to be more options, more mechanics. I feel like I'm already getting cabin fever just from being here as long as I have, and I just can't take it anymore, man. I guess I'll get started on that, pulling the fan, pulling the shroud, and doing my best to patch up the radiator and probably gonna take a long time, so probably won't be out of here till tomorrow. And at that point, it'll be like 2 days away from being 5 weeks out here. I contemplated my options for a while. I was completely stumped, but I knew the fan had to come off, so I started there. Now that I had a better view of the radiator, I decided to have a closer look at the damage. And what I noticed that it looked like all the damage was done only to the fins and not any of the columns. It felt bone dry and it looked like all the columns were intact. So this was huge, because it would mean that I might not have to do any work on the radiator. So an incredible turn of events has occurred just now. I took off the fan, took off the shroud, started the engine, let it idle for 20 minutes just to make sure everything was sound. Air pressure built up, no problem, no leaks on that. Checked that little hose that I installed earlier today, no leaks there. So I was like, all right, let's drive to AutoZone. Drove to AutoZone, temperature was fine. It was around like 160, so it didn't really get up to full operating temperature. I let it idle while I was shopping for, maybe 15-20 minutes, drove it back, still about 160, 170. Turned the engine off and went around back to check on the radiator, and it was bone dry. Even though I didn't get it all the way up to 190, I do think it's still a good sign that the temperature stayed relatively low and that there's still no leaks there. So that means I don't think I'm gonna have to repair my radiator, which is huge because I was not looking forward to that. I'll tell you that right now. So yeah, things are looking up. That means we'll probably be able to head out tomorrow. All I gotta do is install that electric fan, and I think I'm gonna get some grocery shopping done too, just in the off chance I get stranded somewhere in the middle. At least I'll have food. But yeah, there's nothing else to do now other than just relax, eat some dinner, drink some beer, and get ready to head out tomorrow. Can't believe this is actually finally happening. Super pumped on that. I'm gonna eat some dinner, drink some beers, and I'm also gonna have to take care of all this too. This is just an absolute mess. This is the original fan that I had on there. You can see this crazy damage sustained by the bearing that it hit. It's insane how much force that must have been hitting up against that and up against the radiator too. This is the new fan. You can see the fins are on the wrong way, so that's no good. And then I just have all this junk from all the tools and all that. Got the new fan there. That's what'll be going on the bus tomorrow. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got for now. Super pumped on how this turned out today. All right, today's the day. I'm gonna put the fan in. Gonna go on a little test drive around the city, make sure everything's cool, and we should be able to head out, finally. So on second thought, I actually am gonna have to run to the hardware store yet again, just because these little cables, I don't have a connection for that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get some adapters for that so I can just plug some wire in. And speaking of wire, I gotta get more of that too, because I don't think I actually have any left. So I got to work on wiring the fans. It was pretty simple and straightforward. You'll see in a bit that the wiring in the back of the bus is just an absolute nightmare. You'll just have to trust me when I say that it used to be a lot worse. So I've gotten used to this whole process by now. All right, job done. Now we gotta find out which one of these is positive and which one's negative. Or I guess it really doesn't matter, just whichever one spins it the right way. Once I found the right polarity, it was a pretty simple process from here on out. Okay, so I'm running low on storage and battery on my camera, so I'm just gonna describe for you what I'm gonna do here and then show you the results later. So there's these 4 bolts on the corner of the radiator that hold in this metal sheet. I'm gonna take that off and then use those bolts to ground the fans, just like the ones on the back are. And then from there, it should be a pretty easy process just to get the positives onto the switch. And I think as an extra precaution, I'm gonna get a thicker wire from the batteries to the switch just so I can carry that extra power. I don't know if that's how that works, but I feel like better safe than sorry. So yeah, we're gonna do that. And if I'm feeling extra fancy, I might get an extra fan, maybe like stagger it, one on the top left, one on the bottom right, just so I can make sure all the columns are cooling and there's a good amount of airflow going through the engine bay. Okay, so I did end up getting an extra fan on there just because once I put that one fan on there, I realized just how small it was. But yeah, without further ado, it's the moment of truth. So I hate to leave on such a cliffhanger, but I know I've already recorded so much. I don't know how long this video is going to be. It might be really long, it might not be, but I think this is a good place to leave off for now. So I know this was a weird video. Like I said, it's a new format. I'm still getting used to it. But either way, I hope you liked it, and I hope you want to join me on this journey. And with that, we have what was supposed to be the closure of my stay in Texas. But what you'll see going forward, I'm gonna be hitting a lot more roadblocks before I can cross that border into New Mexico. If you watched up until now, it must mean you liked the video, so it would mean the world to me if you left a like and commented what you want to see from me next. I'm contemplating having 2 series running alongside each other, with one of them being more of this, focusing more on the travel to each destination, and the other series focusing more on the destination themselves. Kind of like my older video that I did on the Gitche Manitou Preserve. And if you haven't watched that now, I highly recommend it. It's a good one. So if that sounds like something you might enjoy, why not subscribe and hit the bell? It's absolutely free and you can always change your mind later. I'm still new at this whole content creation thing, so I'm still kind of working out the kinks and finding out what format works best for me. So any feedback you've got for me, positive, negative, I'd love to hear that down in the comments. It would really go a long way for me. But anyways, that's just about all I got for now. So I hope to see you in the next one, where I try and struggle to make my way to El Paso.